This is the story of a girl that I will read out to you. Growing up, Sarah and I were always called the twins. People said we looked identical. Same hazel eyes, same crooked smile, same sarcastic sense of humor. But that was where the similarities ended. She was loud, confident, always the center of attention at family gatherings, while I clung to the corners with a plate of food I barely touched. I always felt like I lived in her shadow, but I never questioned it. We were born just minutes apart, or so I'd been told. She was born at 11:57 p.m., and me at 12:04 a.m., which gave us different birthdays. But that little quirk always made our twin status a fun family trivia fact. Or so I thought. Our parents, well, I always called them Mom and Dad, were kind, responsible people. Mom worked as a librarian. Dad was a quiet mechanic who loved tinkering with watches in his free time. We were a small, tight-knit family. Or at least they made sure I thought so. It all started unraveling the week after my 18th birthday. I was filling out paperwork for college when I needed my birth certificate. Mom said it should be in the filing cabinet in the attic. I went up, digging through the mess of manila folders and water-stained envelopes. I found mine tucked into a folder labeled Medical Assess A. I opened it, expecting the usual name. Date, hospital, parents. But something stopped me cold. Under mother's name, it didn't say Karen Johnson. That's my mom, the woman who raised me, kissed my scraped knees, and made me hot chocolate when I was sick. It said Sarah Johnson. I blinked. No. That couldn't be right. Sarah's my sister. My twin sister. I flipped through the pages again, looking for some kind of correction or annotation. Maybe there was a mistake? Maybe they switched the names. But then I found the hospital discharge papers, folded behind the certificate. Sarah had been admitted at 16 years old. 16. The date matched my birthday. Her discharge said, Mother, and infant discharged in healthy condition. It felt like the attic floor dropped out from under me. I didn't tell anyone that night. I couldn't. I went back to my room, locked the door, and stared at my ceiling for hours, listening to my sister, my mother, laugh downstairs while watching TV with our parents. Her voice, which had always been comforting and familiar, now sounded like a stranger's. I barely slept. The next day, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until everyone was out, Sarah at work and our parents at the grocery store. And I opened her closet. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe some proof, maybe a diary, maybe anything to explain the insanity that was buzzing inside my skull. I didn't find a diary, but I found a shoebox. Inside were old photos, some of her school things, and a letter addressed to my baby girl. I read it with trembling hands. If you're reading this, I guess the truth is out. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I never found the courage. You were never a mistake. You saved me. I loved you from the moment I felt you kick inside me. But I was just a kid. Mom and Dad, well, your grandparents, stepped up so I could finish school, pretend like everything was normal, and give you a real chance. I thought pretending to be your sister would protect us both. I didn't realize how badly it would hurt you later. I stopped halfway through. I couldn't breathe. Sarah, no, my mom, had written this letter years ago. She knew the truth would come out eventually. And no one thought to tell me? I took the box, slammed the closet shut, and sat on my bed for hours, just staring at the wall. When Sarah got home that night, I was waiting. I didn't even let her set down her purse. Why does my birth certificate say you're my mother? I asked. Her face drained of color. The purse dropped to the floor. She didn't answer right away, just covered her mouth with both hands and whispered, "Oh my God." Then she sank onto the couch like her legs gave out. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," she said, her voice barely audible. I felt a sob crawl up my throat, but I swallowed it back. So it's true. She nodded slowly. I had you when I was 16. Mom and Dad said they'd raise you as their own. It was the only way they'd let me keep you. I couldn't speak. I didn't know if I wanted to scream, cry, or just run away. I'm sorry, she whispered again, tears in her eyes. I never stopped being your mom, even if I couldn't tell you. That's when I realized something worse. If she knew, then they knew too. Mom, Dad, my grandparents. The people I trusted most had lied to me for my entire life. And if they lied about this, what else weren't they telling me? After Sarah, no, my mom, confessed the truth, I didn't speak to her for 3 days. Not because I was punishing her. I just didn't know what to say. Every time I opened my mouth, I felt like I was choking on the words. I couldn't call her mom. I couldn't call her Sarah. Everything felt wrong. I stayed locked in my room, rereading the letter she'd written, trying to make sense of a lifetime of lies. The girl I thought was my sister was actually the one who gave birth to me. The people I thought were my parents were actually my grandparents. My entire identity, my whole life, was a fabrication carefully constructed to protect her, or to protect themselves. On the 4th day, I went downstairs while Sarah was at work. My grandparents were at the kitchen table, sipping tea like it was any other day, like the world hadn't turned upside down. I dropped the birth certificate and the letter on the table. They didn't even look surprised. I know, I said. My voice shook. I know everything. She told me. My grandma, who I used to call Mom, looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. She reached out like she wanted to take my hand, but I pulled back. You were so little, she whispered. We did what we had to do. She was just a child herself. We couldn't let people judge her, or you. We thought it was the best thing for everyone. Lying to me for 18 years was the best thing, I snapped. I grew up thinking, my mother was my sister. You let me believe a lie every single day. My grandfather sighed deeply, placing his cup down. We wanted to give you a normal life. We thought, if we just played the parts, eventually it would all settle in and feel real. But it wasn't real, I said, tears now streaming down my face. None of it was real. That night, I left. I packed a bag and went to stay at my friend Lena's house. Her parents didn't ask questions when they saw my face. I guess I looked broken enough. Lena tried to cheer me up with movies, pizza, even dumb TikToks. But my mind kept spinning in 1,000 directions. What if Sarah had other secrets? What if she didn't even want me? What if I was just a mistake she regretted every day of her life? On the second night, I finally texted her. If you ever loved me, tell me everything. No more lies. She replied in under a minute. Come to my apartment tomorrow. I'll tell you everything. Her place was small. A 1-bedroom with Hohen Bathura, second-hand furniture, and faded posters on the wall. It smelled like peppermint tea and lavender candles. It didn't feel like the home of a liar. Sarah sat on the couch with a photo album in her lap. She looked nervous, like she was facing a firing squad. I'm not going to make excuses, she said as I sat down. I was 15 when I got pregnant. I didn't even know who to tell at first. Your father... She hesitated. He wasn't in the picture. He never wanted to be. Who was he? I asked. My voice was hoarse. Sarah looked away. He was someone I met at a party, older. I thought he liked me, but it wasn't a relationship. He disappeared when I told him. I never saw him again. I felt cold all over. You mean Hey, she nodded slowly. I didn't want to believe it, but yes, I think he took advantage of me. I was too young to understand it then. I didn't know what to say. Part of me hated her for lying. Part of me wanted to hold her and cry with her. She flipped open the photo album. There were pictures of her pregnant, her belly hidden under oversized sweaters. She looked like a kid, trying to pretend she wasn't drowning. Then, there was a photo of her holding me in the hospital. tears streaking her cheeks. "You were the only good thing that came out of that nightmare," she whispered. "When I held you..." I didn't care what people said. I just wanted to be your mom. But I wasn't allowed to be. She turned to the next page. "Mom and Dad said if I kept you, we had to lie. No one could know. Not friends, not neighbors, not even you. I told myself one day I'd fix it. I just kept waiting for the right time. And it never came," I said bitterly. "No," she whispered. "It never did. I was too scared I'd lose you. Or that you'd hate me." I didn't reply. I just stared at the photo of her holding baby me, both of us unaware of the years of lies ahead. Later that night, I asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do you regret it?" She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "Never," she said, her voice breaking. "I regret lying. I regret not telling you sooner. But I never, not for 1 second, regretted having you." I believed her. But that didn't make it easier. A few days later, I went home. Not because I forgave everyone, but because I needed answers and closure. My grandparents sat me down again, this time with a photo box and their own letters. Apparently, they'd always known this day would come. My grandmother even said, "We planned to tell you at 21, once you were more mature." That made me laugh bitterly. "You don't think 18 is old enough to know who your mother is?" They had no reply. They told me Sarah fought for me. She had offers from adoption agencies, even pressure from school counselors. But she said no to all of it. She only agreed to the twin sister lie because it was the only way she could stay close to me. I still don't know how to process all of it. How do you rewrite your entire childhood in your head? How do you look at the woman who raised you as your sister and call her Mom? I don't have those answers yet, but I know. This, the truth, as painful as it is, feels better than the lie. Telling people was the worst part. My best friend Lena was the first person I trusted with the full story. We sat in her room, the glow of string lights overhead, while I stumbled through the whole truth, the attic, the birth certificate, Sarah, being my mom. She didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at me like I told her I was moving to Mars. Then she whispered, "Wait, so your mom is your sister, and your grandparents are your parents?" I nodded. "Holy shit," she breathed. That's like soap opera level drama." We both laughed. It felt good to laugh for a moment. Like pressure being released from a bottle I hadn't even realized was about to explode. But that was Lena. Understanding. Loyal. She cried with me, made me tea, and even threatened to go yell at Sarah herself. I told her not to. But in that moment, knowing someone was on my side meant more than anything. Other people weren't as kind. At school, I slipped. I told one person I thought I could trust. And by the next day, it was everywhere. Someone made a TikTok about it. I didn't even have to see it to know what it looked like. Just another piece of viral gossip, some exaggerated narration, and dramatic music. A juicy little secret, stripped of all its pain and complexity. People started whispering. Some looked at me with pity. Others with judgment. One girl even said, "You, imagine being raised by your mom pretending to be your sister." Oh, that's so messed up. I wanted to disappear. I stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria. I avoided hallways where the popular kids hung out. Teachers started asking if I was okay. I'd nod, smile, lie. Just like the people who raised me had. At you in my home. Things were fragile. Sarah tried to give me space. She texted me every night with little messages like, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you no matter what." I didn't always reply, but I read every word. Sometimes I hated how much I wanted to believe her. My grandparents, I still didn't know what to call them, tried to go back to normal, but it was impossible. Every dinner felt staged, like we were all playing characters in a sitcom that had jumped the shark. One night, I asked my grandma, What would have happened if I never found out? She didn't answer at first. Then she said, "We would have told you eventually. We just kept waiting for the right moment." "There's no right moment to undo someone's entire reality," I replied. She looked like she wanted to cry. Maybe I wanted her to. The biggest crack came when I asked about my father. Not Sarah's. Mine. I sat across from her in her tiny apartment, both of us holding mugs of tea we weren't drinking. "Do you know who he is?" I asked. Her eyes shifted. That hesitation was all the answer I needed. "You do?" She nodded slowly. "I didn't think you'd want to know." "I deserve to know." She was silent for a long time before whispering his name. A name I'd never heard before. Eric Holston. He was 20 when I met him. I was 15. He told me he was 17. My stomach turned. He knew I was pregnant. He disappeared after I told him. I don't know where he is now. I haven't seen him since. "Have you ever tried to find him?" "I did once," she said. "A few years ago, just to see what kind of man he became. But I stopped myself. I didn't want to invite that kind of chaos into your life." "You already did," I said before I could stop myself. She looked hurt. And I hated myself for it. But I couldn't take it back. That night, I searched his name. It didn't take long. Facebook, LinkedIn, even an old mugshot from a DUI 5 years ago. He lived 3 towns over, owned a landscaping business, married, 2 sons, a golden retriever. He looked, normal. Like any suburban dad, and I hated him for that. For being normal. For pretending nothing ever happened. For never once wondering what happened to me. I told Sarah I found him. She begged me not to reach out. "He doesn't deserve to know you," she said. "He didn't earn that right. But it wasn't about him. It was about me." I needed closure. I needed to look him in the eyes and ask, why? So I wrote him a letter, just a simple one. "My name is Ava. You knew my mother, Sarah Johnson, about 18 years ago. You may not remember, but I think you're my biological father. I don't want money. I don't want anything from you. I just want the truth." I mailed it. No return. Address, and then I waited. Days passed, then a week. I thought maybe he'd ignore it. Or maybe I got the wrong guy. Then a letter came in the mail. No return name. Just a P.O. box. Inside was 1 page, typed. "I know who you are. I'm sorry. I was young and stupid and scared. I didn't handle anything the way I should have. If you want to talk, I'll be here. But I understand if you never want to hear from me again. No phone number. No social media handle. Just a silent offering. I folded the letter up and put it in a drawer. Maybe I'll respond one day. Maybe I won't. But now I know." One night, I sat in Sarah's apartment and asked her something I'd never dared before. "Why didn't you fight?" "Harder to be my mom?" She looked up from her tea. Her eyes were tired. "I did," she said. "But I was 16. Everyone told me I couldn't raise a baby, that I'd ruin your life. I believed them. And when Mom and Dad offered to raise you as their own, it felt like the only way I wouldn't lose you completely." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "But you did lose me," I whispered. "You lost 18 years of being my mom." "I know," she said. "And I'll regret it for the rest of my life." She reached across the table and took my hand. "But if you'll let me, I'd like to try now." Calling Sarah Mom for the first time was the hardest thing I've ever done. We were sitting on a park bench, halfway through a walk she'd invited me on. The spring air smelled like wet grass and new beginnings. She'd just told a story about me as a toddler, something I didn't even remember, and for some reason it made me laugh. And then I said it, quietly, almost like I was testing it on my tongue. "Thanks, Mom." She froze. Her breath caught. She blinked so fast I thought she might collapse into tears. Then she smiled. A real, stunned, radiant smile, like she couldn't believe the word came from me. I didn't say it again for a while. It felt like breaking in new shoes. Awkward, unfamiliar, but necessary. The word had weight now. Meaning, she hadn't earned it in the traditional way, not with baby bottles and scraped knees and bedtime stories, but she'd earned it through something else. She fought for me. And as angry as I still was about the lies, I knew deep down that she'd never stopped loving me, not even when I didn't know who she truly was. But forgiveness is not a straight line. It's messy, with setbacks and stumbles, and days you want to rip the whole thing apart again. I still had those days. Sometimes I'd walk into the kitchen at home, my grandparents' house, and see them sitting in the same chairs where they'd told me my entire life was a lie, and I'd feel sick. They tried, I'll give them that. They cooked my favorite meals, left handwritten notes with reminders like, "You're loved, and we're proud of you." But the damage was done. I told them I needed space. I started spending more nights at Sarah's apartment. We'd cook together, watch movies on her lumpy couch, and talk about everything, especially the things we'd missed. She cried when I showed her my childhood drawings. I cried when she pulled out the journal she kept during her pregnancy, each page filled with fears and hopes and messy, chaotic love. "Do you ever wish you'd just kept me and told the world to screw off?" I asked once. "Every single day," she whispered. Graduation came faster than I expected. Walking across that stage, I felt like two people at once. The girl raised in a perfect lie, and the woman who stepped into her truth anyway. After the ceremony, Sarah handed me a small box. Inside was a gold necklace with one word engraved on it: daughter. I didn't take it off for weeks. The biggest decision came later that summer. College acceptance letters were already piling up, and one of them was from a school 3 states away. A fresh start, a new name, a place where no one knew my story. I almost ran for it. But then Sarah said something that changed everything. "You can go wherever you want," she told me one night. "But don't run because you're ashamed. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You're the strongest person I know." She said it like it was obvious, like it was a fact, not a compliment. And for the first time, I believed her. So I chose a school just 1 city over, close enough to see her on weekends, far enough to grow on my own. I still get questions sometimes. "Wait, isn't your sister your..." Didn't you grow up thinking... I just smile now. Yeah, it's complicated. But it's my complicated. I've learned something important through all this. Blood doesn't guarantee honesty, and lies can come wrapped in love. But truth, once it's out, is a kind of freedom. And with that freedom, I got to make my own choice. To forgive. To rebuild. To call my mother Mom. Not because someone told me to, but because I wanted to. Epilogue. It's been 2 years since I found the letter in the attic. Sarah and I still have our rough patches, but we talk almost every day. She comes to visit campus when she can, and she's even taken a parenting class. For fun, she says, but I think it's her way of trying to catch up on all she missed. As for my biological father, Eric, I never wrote back. Not yet. Maybe. I will someday, when I'm ready. Maybe I never will. Some doors are better left closed. But this door, the one between Sarah and me, is open now. And no matter how it started, it's real.